Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have quite a special review today actually, and this was one that I was determined should be filmed in Scotland, so that's why there's been a couple of days break between this review and the last one that you would have seen published. So the number 1314 is quite important to Scots. The year 1314 was when Robert the Bruce won the Battle of Bannockburn, and that ended the First War of Scottish independence, and that basically secured our status as a country for 300 years, for just about 300 years until the Union of the Crowns, and then the Union of the countries itself was actually in 1707. So nearly 400 years, depending on what perspective you take on it, Robert the Bruce secured our independence at the Battle of Bannockburn, which is just along the road from where I lived actually. But for review number 1314, I've got a beer that I thought was quite appropriate to kind of celebrate him with, because he is one of our national heroes, of course, but ironically the beer is American. So for this one we're going to head over to Munster in Indiana, and we're having a taste of another beer from Floyds Brewing Company. So this one is called Robert the Bruce, and it comes in at 6.5%. It's a Scotch ale, of course, and I should say that 6.5% is actually quite low for a Scotch ale, particularly for an American one. The American ones always tend to be really quite high in terms of their ABV. The Scottish ones tend to be around 7%, sort of between 6.5–7%, so it is kind of within the range of what a Scottish Scotch ale would be. Personally, I've always found that the American ones are a little bit sweeter and more fruity. The Scottish ones do tend to be a little bit more roasted and stuff like that. So there's always this interesting kind of contrast between the styles, but I thought this would be an awesome beer to do as review at number 1314. So I hope you guys like it, and a huge thank you in this review as well to Jesse Holden, who very kindly sent me this beer over from the US. He lives in the area, and he's followed the channel I think since not long after it started actually. He sent me a few beers before, and he sent me this one and another one that you will see used for the 5th anniversary video for the challenge, for the channel as well. So a huge thank you to Jesse for making this review possible. This is a beer that I wanted to try for quite some time, so I'm sure it'll be an awesome one. It was rated 96 overall on Rate Beer and 99 within the Scotch ale style. On Untappd I think it had a 4.3, something like that, so a very highly rated beer, and I'm sure I'll enjoy this one, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Floyds before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's been added to whenever I can, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, a little bit about Floyds Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned to you, Floyds are based in Indiana, and they were founded back in 1996 by Mike Floyd and his two sons Nick and Simon. So the brewery were originally based in Hammond in Indiana, but they're now based in Munster, and apparently when they started the brewery out, they did it with only a couple of $100 and a 5-barrel Frankenstein walk burner and an open Swiss cheese fermenter. So a really kind of interesting setup in the early days, but basically they've grown to be to be really quite big actually. They're not the biggest craft beer operation in Indiana from what I gather, but they are like really well respected in American craft beer circles. But they also stick to the basic tenets of the German purity law, the Reinheitsgebot, using the 4 ingredients, and they say that this still allows them though to brew a wide variety of beers, and they do that actually. Zombie Dust, which you saw me review a while back, that's regarded as one of the best pale ale beers in the world. I'm sure that's a single hop mosaic beer, and they're very good at all the different styles of beer, so they're a very well rounded brewery as well. But they have their brew pub on Indiana Parkway in Munster, and this also has a kiosk to actually take out the beers, and they also offer first come first served tours of the brewery every Saturday. So hopefully I can get out to the States at some point. And Jesse said I was welcome to go over and visit him. Hopefully I can meet him over here for the Copenhagen Beer Festival or something like that. But Jesse said he would take me up to have a look at the Floyds Brewery when I do make it out to Indiana. A trip back out to the States is definitely well overdue actually. It really is something that I need to get round to. at some point in the fairly near future, because it has been about 9 years since I've been there. But it was really, really cool of Jesse to send me this beer, like I said, and it's just very, very appropriate for the for this particular review. So that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. Let's just chat a wee bit about Robert the Bruce, though, because absolutely, you know, the history of Robert the Bruce, I think, is absolutely awesome. There's a few things I wanted to point out here on the label of this one. So I'm just checking, you can see this on the camera control. With this, you can see that Robert the Bruce is holding an axe. Now, Robert the Bruce became the King of Scotland in 1306, and it lasted until 1329, when he died, actually. And he had quite a bit of a fight on his hands to actually take control of Scotland. There was a bit of a feud between him and a guy called John Comyn, who was the other candidate to be the king. There was a guy before them called John Balliol, and he was captured and basically sent to France. He was captured by the English. When he came back, basically could not be arsed being king anymore. So Robert the Bruce and John Comyn were fierce rivals. The bishops chose Robert the Bruce to be the King of Scotland, and but he was known to be a very angry man. He was known to be a warrior. John Comyn was supposed to be a bit of a diplomat, so Robert the Bruce was who was needed at that time in Scottish history. And Robert the Bruce, for all of his life, he was basically terrified because he was excommunicated by the Catholic Church. At that time, Scotland was Catholic, of course, although in more recent history it is Protestant, although now it is pretty much an atheist, non-religious country. But Robert the Bruce killed John Comyn in a church, and he was terrified for the rest of his life that for having killed his rival to the throne, he would be sent to hell. That was one thing that really kind of made him terrified for all of his life. But the axe that he carries in this battle, that he carries here, there's a story about that with the Battle of Bannockburn. Apparently he was telling his troops what he wanted them to do when the battle actually came. He was sitting on his horse, no armour, nothing, and then an English knight called Henry de Bohun, who was, I think, the Earl, I want to say he was the Earl of Huddersfield or something like that. He came over the hill and saw the Scottish king sitting there, thought, I can end the war here, I can kill the king, I can get the glory. All Robert the Bruce had was his axe, and basically turned his horse round, faced the English knight coming over the hill, waited till the last second, stepped his horse to the side, hit Henry de Bohun in the head, killed him with his axe, and that was that. That is said to have inspired the Scots to go on and actually win the battle at Bannockburn, and they really, it was something that really wasn't expected. Robert the Bruce was a bit of a tactical genius, apparently. He was a very, very clever man. And him holding the axe, you see that in a lot of the statues and things of him, because of that thing that he did. Basically because he killed a fully armoured knight with no armour on himself outright. So the axe is a little bit of a kind of legendary thing when it comes to Robert the Bruce. So pretty much every statue, every painting that you'll see of him, he is holding his axe. And there is a story that apparently he complained to his generals that he'd broken his favourite axe because he hit the knight that hard to kill him. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stories about Robert the Bruce, and it's quite funny because you think some of them that can't be true, but quite a few of them have actually been verified. You know, he was absolutely just a crazy king, but you know, he saved the country from basically being subjugated and secured independence for 300-400 years, depending on what perspective you look at it. But there you can see this thing that is actually on the label. That is the depiction of Robert the Bruce killing Henry de Bohun, the Earl of Huddersfield, if I'm remembering de Bohun's title correctly. But yeah, you can see here on the side it also has the lion rampant. This was first used, I think, by Alexander II in the early 1200s. So this was always the symbol of the Scottish kings, the lion rampant, and that's of course what I named the channel after. So I thought that was really cool. There you can see the 3 Floyds bottle cap on this as well. The other thing I guess I should say about Robert the Bruce is that he actually was sort of half French, half Gaelic, essentially. I think he was actually born in Ireland, if I remember correctly, but he was descended from French and Gaelic nobility, if you like. So the name, he was actually called Robert de Bru, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly in that sense. So the Robert the Bruce was the sort of anglicised version of it. But yeah, Scotland's greatest king. He is a bit of a national hero, but he's often forgotten about in place of William Wallace. And I don't particularly like the depiction that they have of Robert the Bruce in Braveheart, because it's just, completely historically inaccurate. But I mean, that's enough about the history. As I say, let's get into this beer and have a taste of. Always like talking about Robert the Bruce. So this is kind of why I wanted this beer for this review, because it is, really quite cool. You can smell some of these nice bready malts coming off this one. I'm really interested actually to see if 3 Floyds have brewed this beer more along the lines of a Scottish brewed Scotch ale rather than the American ones. As I was saying earlier on, the Scotch ale The ones from America, I've always found that they're a little bit more sugary, sort of sweeter, and the red fruits and things come out a little bit more, whereas the Scottish ones I've always found to be a little bit more roasty. So yeah, looking forward to this one. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would kind of expect from the Scotch ale, this beer's poured. If I hold it up to the light, I'm not sure how well you guys can see it on the camera incidentally, but it's actually quite a nice dark sort of ruby colour, this one. I think, yeah, it's fair to say, it's definitely a really dark ruby colour. It's not even mahogany or anything like that. As I'm kind of sugling this beer around a little bit, there's a nice sort of biscuity and brown sugary note coming off this beer. But there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, it looks pretty much as you would expect a Scotch ale to. You know, the colour can change slightly. It's 6.5%. This is something else I should also point out. When it comes to traditional Scottish beers, we always had the shilling system, which was a way of, it was to do with the taxes of course, but we had 50 shilling, 60 shilling, 70 shilling, 80 shilling and 90 shilling, and essentially as you went up this rating system, the malt content and the alcohol content of course got a little bit higher, so the beer was taxed more. The modern American sort of take on the Scotch ale is usually somewhere between an 80 and a 90 shilling, some kind of combination of that. At 6.5%, I would guess this beer is probably somewhere around probably somewhere between a 60 and a 70 shilling. I think it would be somewhere around that. Now it wasn't to do with, like, you know, a 70 shilling with 7% and things like that. It was a little bit more complicated than that, and to be quite honest, I don't know exactly where the lines were drawn, but I'm guessing this beer will be somewhere around a 70 shilling. It doesn't actually tell you on the bottle, if I remember correctly, because this is one of the weird things about Three Floyds. They don't tell you the ABV on the bottles of their beer. Which is, you know, it's a little bit annoying that actually, because I would like to know the alcohol content of it, but from what I gather, Rate Beer and Untappd and everything have this one listed as 6.5%, and I'm sure that's also on the Three Floyds website as well. I'm surprised they're able to do that when it comes to all these different laws and things in different countries. But yeah, it looks pretty much exactly as you would expect from a Scotch ale, so without further ado, let's get stuck into this, or let's have a smell of the aroma and see how we get on then. Yeah. See, to be quite honest, this beer, if I smelt this, I would not think this was 6.5%. I would think it's quite a bit heavier than that. So yeah, there's a lot of nice brown sugar in this one. It does have that kind of typical Scotch ale brown sugary element to it. It's got, there's a sort of darker treacle note coming out of this one. There is a little bit of a lighter kind of caramel. There's almost a little bit of a kind of caramel wafery thing and a biscuity aroma coming out of this beer as well. But there's a lot of toasted quality to this one, which I really, really quite like. But as I say, it does smell really quite, it does actually smell quite toasted, this one. It's got a really quite sweet aroma at the end of it. The caramel wafery notes come out of this beer just beautifully. You can see the head on this one incidentally. It's quite a, I would say it's a sort of light beige kind of fawn colour, this one. But it smells lovely, that beer. There's a little bit of a woody kind of nutty element to it. I'd say it leans a little bit more towards the nutty side of things, to be honest with you. And there's an element of a kind of brown bready quality. All things that you would expect from the Scotch ale style, of course. The hoppy side, I'd say it's a little bit earthy. I would say it's mainly an earthy kind of hop that's coming off this one. There's maybe a little touch of grassiness in there, but mainly the hops are earthy. These are all things that you would expect of the Scotch ale, of course. And there's a wee bit of a kind of fruity ester coming off this one. For me, I would say it's kind of a figgy aroma that you're getting from this one. There's a little bit of a kind of raisiny sharpness and kind of plum quality to the beer though. I would definitely say that about this one. So yeah, as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is the Robert the Bruce, a Scotch ale. It's 6.5% from Three Floyds Brewing Company over in Munster in Indiana. Once again, a huge thank you to Jesse Holden for sending me this beer. As I say, this is one of the cool things about doing this channel. You get some amazing followers, and Jesse's been watching the channel since not long after it started actually, so you know, Jesse, huge thank you for this one. This is a beer I wanted to try for a very long time, so let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, let's have a taste. Yeah, You know, that's a pretty damn solid beer. On the taste, I was saying about the aroma, if I smelt this beer, I would definitely think that it's a lot lighter than it is. But in terms of the flavour and things like that, it's definitely a lot light. You can definitely tell that it is not, you know, a sort of 80-90 shilling type beer. It is more along the lines of a 60, maybe 70 at a push, to be honest. Probably more along the lines of a 60 shilling beer, this one. But it is really nice. It has everything you would expect of the style. So you can feel that sort of bready quality just blanket in the middle of your tongue. So there's a really nice kind of brown bready quality to this beer. It's got a little bit of a grainy note which kind of comes out a little bit further into the aftertaste, and that's what I like about this one. It does have that kind of traditionally Scottish thing about it. The Scottish malt was always a little bit more grainy. It's got that nice kind of toasted quality to it as well, which is nice. And I would guess there's, you know, having a bit more of that roasty quality, that's probably what gives the beer that slightly darker kind of ruby colour. A lot of the American ones I've found can be a little bit more kind of mahogany in colour as opposed to ruby, and the colour of course doesn't particularly matter if you like, but that's just an observation I've kind of made with them. For me, there's a nice brown sugary element to it. Right in the middle of your palate you can feel there's this nice dark treacly note, and it almost just sweetens out a little bit as you move further out towards the edge of your tongue. Then, you know, you can feel the lighter caramel just inside of that. There's a little bit of the kind of wafery caramel just beyond that as well, and as you go right out towards the edge of your tongue, the beer is a little bit more biscuity just at the point where you're reaching where the hops should start to come out, and towards the front of the palate, that's where you're starting to get some of these kind of woody, nutty elements out of the beer. So yeah, for me, there is definitely a little bit of a kind of slightly, almost spicy woody note to this beer, but it's definitely a little bit sweeter on top of that, and a little bit more nutty. I think there's a little really kind of roasty element towards the front of the tongue with this beer as well, which is quite interesting. But yes, it has pretty much everything you would kind of expect in the malt base. You know, this is definitely a kind of lighter Scotch ale. You can tell that in the flavour. It would be cool to see you know, to see them take this beer and amplify it up a little bit and put the alcohol content up, because the lighter Scotch ales, it's a style that's quite difficult to get right, if you like, and I found generally that Scotch ales are a style that are difficult to get right. But I think, you know, Three Floyds, if they made a kind of bigger, heavier version of this, then it would be really quite interesting. They maybe have done right enough, because, you know, they are quite a prolific brewery, but in terms of brewing the lower end Scotch ales, they've certainly done really well with this one. I do like this, and I'd love to, you know, I'd love to drink it again. I'd love to try this on tap at the brewery actually. So in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, it's pretty much as you'd expect. In the back corners of the palate, there's a nice little bit of earthiness there. That smooths out as you kind of come further forward along the sides of the palate. The earthiness that's on the side of your palate with this one, that does kind of build a good bridge between the slightly grainy, roasty qualities that this beer has. Actually, it builds a good bridge and makes the flavour kind of flow. And then right round the front curve of the palate, it is just a little bit lighter and a little bit more grassy. And then just behind the front curve of the tongue, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those nice juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. So yeah, with this one then, pardon me, the fruity side of this beer is definitely leaning towards the kind of red fruity notes, which again is what you would expect. So yeah, nice little bit of a kind of figgy note to this beer. There's a kind of candied red fruit note in there as well. The red fruits are basically quite straight up in this one. There's not the kind of stronger, sharper flavours that you would expect sometimes of raisins, and there's not that kind of sharper note that you would expect of raisins and plums and stuff like this. But I mean, overall it is a really nice beer, this one. All the flavours kind of go together really well. You can hear my dad's out the back cutting the grass, which is annoying at this point in time. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, I would say it's mid-bodied. Carbonation is really quite smooth in this one. It leans a little bit towards the oily side of things. There's a nice sort of, there's definitely a nice kind of roasty quality to the malt base in this one, but it's well balanced with the sweetness, I would say. The hops, there's a little bit of bitterness there, but overall they are actually quite smooth, and there's just a little bit of a juicy fruity character to this one. Overall, the actual feel of this beer is a little bit darker. This is nowhere near as sweet as some of the Scotch ales that you're going to find in America. This one definitely is a little bit more like a Scottish brewed Scotch ale, so I have to give Three Floyds a big thumbs up for that. It is cool to see them do them kind of more traditional version of the style, actually. So yeah, I think that's probably a good place to kind of leave it at that for this beer. I think this one really is more of what a Scottish person would expect from, you know, like a 70-shilling Scotch ale, rather than what we would expect from the kind of American take on the style, which is, as I say, a lot more sweeter and a lot more fruity. But I do like the American take on the style as well. You know, the pinnacle one of that is the Backwoods Bastard, or the Dirty Bastard from Founders Brewing Company. There are various other ones out there, of course, as well. But yeah, really nice beer, this one, and I'm really glad that I was able to review this for you, especially for review number 1314. So like I say, a huge thank you to Jesse for making this review possible. You will see another beer from him and his friend, actually, for the 5th anniversary review in a couple of weeks' time. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews, and I hope you've enjoyed this one. So until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Do let me know some of the best Scotch ales, and some of your favourite Scotch ales from America as well. Like I say, this is a style that I really enjoy, and I love trying Scotch ales that are brewed in different parts of the world as well. One of the best ones I've ever had was from Bodebrown down in Brazil, and that was a really, you know, just really awesome beer. I still have the bottle for that one. That was sent to me by another follower, Fabrizio, which was really cool. But yeah, let me know your favourite Scotch ales that you've come across from all countries. As I say, I love reviewing that style. Make sure you check out my social media as well. Let me know your favourite beers from Three Floyds. Let me know your opinions on the Robert the Bruce as well. And you know, just as I say, thank you for all your support over the last videos and things like that. This was a really cool video that I was looking forward to, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So yeah, until the next time, slange it just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Robert the Bruce, a Scotch ale, is 6.5% from Three Floyds Brewing Company over in Munster in Indiana. Hope you've enjoyed review number 1314. This was one that I'd been looking forward to for a very long time. Until the next time, slange it just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Hail the Bruce. Slange it.